Hey, it's your boy Control, and I'm here today to bring you guys my Pyro Warrior guide. This is a list that I held down double rank 1 legend on North America and Europe for Wild Ladder. After hitting rank 1 legend in both modes, I decided to head over to Asia, crafting this deck, and going 47 and 11 in the span of 5 hours, hitting legend there as well from rank 10. So the deck list isn't too wild, there's only 5 wild cards in it: Sir Finley, Ship's Cannon, and Death's Bite. The total cost is 6,680 dust. Why should you play Pyro Warrior? Well, there are a lot of pros and not too many cons. I'll go over a couple of both. Number 1, extremely fast games. I played over 400 games this season, and my average game time is 4.5 minutes. 2, Ship's Cannon is extremely overpowered. This card is absolutely bonkers. Think about how good the old 3-2 Knife Juggler was, just dealing 1 damage randomly. Now we have one that's a 2-3, which is a little bit easier to stay on the board. It's stickier early game, and it deals 2 damage randomly. Turns out it's relatively good. 3, overpowered. This is by far the strongest deck in Hearthstone at the current moment. 4, this deck destroys greedy, suboptimal decks where people are trying to experiment or play more fun cards. The cons: drawing patches really sucks. Nobody likes to do it, but it's definitely worth the slot in the deck. And lastly, unfortunately, if you do decide to copy control the board and go down the route of being a Pyro Warrior grinder, you'll have no friends. A lot of people come into my Twitch channel and ask, Control, why are you playing this deck? What happened to the good old Reno Lock Control? The answer is, I like to play decks that are extremely overpowered. A little bit of general advice for playing the deck. When you're on the coin, turn 2, playing Ship's Cannon and coining out a 1-drop is extremely powerful. Even on the play, waiting to play minions until turn 3 if you have Ship's Cannon and a 1-drop is a very safe play. Playing for board with this deck is often correct, especially in the early turns. It turns out simply going face is often one of the best ways you can actually lose with this deck. Playing cards suboptimally is alright. Sometimes you are going to have to play Bloodsail Cultist just as simply a 3-4. Same goes with Bloodsail Raider, sometimes it will just have to come down as a 2-3, so don't worry about getting maximum value from your cards. Just simply play them and make them do something. And lastly, again, don't play around Acidic Swampoos or Galactic Crawler. It's simply not worth it with this deck. Force your opponent to punish you. Okay, so on the play in most matchups, you're looking to get a 1-drop. The best 1-drop you can get is N'Zoth's First Mate. Then Finley and Deckhand are generally tied. Against slow decks, Deckhand is usually a good play on turn 1, but against fast decks, you generally want to be able to hold Deckhand and play it with a weapon so you can charge and trade with it right away. Next up, look for your 2-drop Ship's Cannon and Bloodsail Raider when you're on the play. Fiery War Axe is also given a very high priority in the mulligan. If you're playing against another aggressive deck, it's one of the strongest cards in the game. On the coin, I'm generally hard mulliganing for Ship's Cannon and Fiery War Axe. If you already have Ship's Cannon, look for a 1-drop so you can play it on turn 2 and then coin the 1-drop after. If you already have Ship's Cannon or Fiery War Axe, feel free to keep 3-drops. Next up is the matchups. So over about 400 games, I have a 64% win rate. Against Druids, I have an absolutely insane win rate. Played against a fair amount of Jades and Egg Druids on ladder. Jade Druid is pretty much a free matchup. Egg Druid, I would say, is a slightly unfavored matchup if you're playing against an opponent who knows how to play the matchup and is playing a good deck. Fortunately for me, a lot of opponents are playing experimental decks with Egg Druid and not playing the matchup correctly as well. And that would be what I would say led to this insane win rate. The only sub 50 win rate I've had so far is Hunter, and I would accredit that to the lack of sample size. And also, all of my opponents running Galactic Crawlers. Against Hunters, and N'Zoth's First Mate is one of your best cards because they often run 1 health 1-drops. Next up is Mage. I'm 35 and 16 against them. Found that Reno Mage is slightly unfavored, so I've had a little bit of a difficult time against them if they build an anti-aggro version of the deck on ladder. Freeze Mage is also a deck that I've queued into a fair amount. I've had a decent win rate against them, but I feel like I just win because opponents misplay. In reality, if the matchup was played optimally, I find that the matchup would be a lot closer to 50-50. I've also queued into a fair amount of Tempo Mages and have had almost no trouble beating them a lot of the time. Paladin has been alright on ladder. My win rate against Paladin is 19 and 12. Against Paladin, I'm 19 and 12. I would say that against all Paladin variants we're favored, but the amount we're favored by has definitely dropped since Un'Goro has been released. With new cards like Galactic Crawler, Spike Reach Seed, and Sunkeeper Terran, Paladins have a lot more tools to be able to answer Pyro Warrior's early game threats. Against Priests, I'm 28 and 24. I found that I've had issues against Aggro Priests who use Divine Spirit and Inner Fire on minions with high health to create huge taunts with minions like Deathlord in order to stop the onslaught that Pyro Warrior has. I've also run into issues against Reno Priest decks who run extremely anti-aggro cards like Unstable Ghoul to stop my early board from snowballing. Next up has been my best matchup by far, Rogue. I'm 24-3 against Rogues. This is primarily due to Quest Rogues. The nature of Quest Rogue is playing understated minions looking to cycle for the first 4 or 5 turns, and it turns out against the extremely powerful Pyro Warrior in Wild, That gives us a fair amount of time to hit in the face and deal 30 damage. Against Shaman, I'm 25 and 15. I've had a little bit of issues against Aggro Shamans who run Bloodsail Raider and Galactic Crawlers. However, my win rate hasn't been too bad against them. Mid-range Jade Shamans have been fine unless they run double Feral Spirits and double Jinyu Water Speaker. I found N'Zoth Shaman to be a pretty rough matchup though if they do get an early taunt minion out like Earth Elemental and then Ancestral Spirit it. And Malygos Shaman has been a pretty free matchup from my perspective. Against Warlock, I'm 26 and 14. I generally beat all the Zulocks at Q2, and against Reno Lock, if they draw Reno by 6 or somewhere between 6 to 8 anti-aggro cards within the first 6 turns, they'll generally win. Otherwise, I will. Against Warrior, I'm 71 and 44, so I have a relatively good sample size for this matchup. Again, there are some Taunt Warriors thrown in, but that's actually decreased my win rate, as Taunt Warrior is a pretty bad matchup for this list. I find playing for board is one of the most important things you can possibly do in the mirror, as the minion damage adds up a lot faster than just hitting face over and over again with weapons. The budget section. Craft everything that isn't a legendary. There's absolutely no replacement for patches other than 1600 Dust, so make sure you get it. The card is way too strong in the deck to not use. If you don't have Sir Finley or Leroy, I would say replace me immediately with 1600 Dust, but if you can't and you're still saving up, use Mortal Strike or a tech card for the mirror like Galactic Crawler or Acidic Swampers. Thanks for checking out my guide, guys. I've had a ton of success with this deck list, and I hope some of you can use it before the ladder season ends and into May. If you guys enjoyed the guide and you're interested in checking out some gameplay, feel free to check me out on twitch.tv. I live stream 6 days a week from 1 PM PST to 9 PM PST, Monday to Saturday. Follow me on Twitter if you're interested in seeing when I go live on Twitch and want to see some of my deck lists. Also, don't forget to sub to me on YouTube if you like this content and are looking to see more daily uploads. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it a lot. And I hope to see all of you on Wild Ladder. Peace out.